Her hands trembled on the ejection handle as the memorial crowd fell silent. 12 years presumed lost. Now she broke formation over her own tribute. The sun dipped below the distant mountain range, casting long shadows across the sprawling disaster response compound. Major Alex Chin adjusted the folded flight suit draped across her arm, her gloved fingers tracing the immaculate seams. Around her, veteran pilots barked orders, calibrated instruments, and polished helmets until each visor gleamed like a mirror. No one noticed when she slipped a fresh microfilter into her pack. Routine preparations for chemical warfare drills. Or so it seemed. She moved with quiet efficiency, checking the fuel gauge on her lightweight drone recon package, tightening the straps on her med-spec kit, and aligning the digital scope to 0. Every motion belied the years she'd spent honing these skills, stabilizing trembling recruits on firing ranges, suturing wounds by flashlight in makeshift tents, and climbing razor wire fences to test perimeter defenses. On casual days, she carried a rag to wipe fingerprints from flight controls, an action so mundane the others overlooked its significance. Whispers circulated about her lineage, rumors that her father, a decorated sniper, vanished deep behind enemy lines, but those stories were never confirmed. The colonel mused aloud that perhaps she was chasing ghosts. The lieutenants joked she was simply too stubborn to stay at a desk job. Yet none suspected the depth of her expertise. Drop a, if you've ever been underestimated, a fellow Tech joked as he saluted her passing. Alex allowed herself a faint smile but said nothing. Underestimation was her greatest weapon. Without warning, the alarm siren fractured the morning calm. A high-pitched wail signaled an unauthorized intruder at the security perimeter. Alex's pulse spiked not at the breach itself, but at the opportunity it represented. She vaulted onto the maintenance catwalk, slid down the support cable, and sprinted toward the command hub. Inside, panic flared as officers barked into headsets and seismic sensors blinked red. A civilian transport drone had malfunctioned, veering dangerously close to the memorial grounds. Lives were at stake and standard protocols would take precious minutes. In one fluid motion, Alex donned her helmet, engaged the drone's override interface, and patched through to the civilian controller, fingers dancing across the touchpad. She rewrote the flight path, coaxing the rogue drone back on course. Crisis averted, she announced, voice calm as a pond. But the memorial slot's compromised. I'll handle it. Without waiting for approval, she vaulted into an F-22 cockpit stationed nearby, the canopy hissing shut overhead. Spectators gasped as she throttled into the sky, wings slicing through early morning mist. Her jet roared, a steel leviathan reborn under her command. The compound fell silent again, hearts pounding, eyes glued to her precise re-entry. With pinpoint accuracy, Alex aligned the F-22 for a low pass over the marble cenotaph erected in her honor. Each machine-calibrated adjustment of the flight surfaces spoke of 12 years of hidden training, simulated dogfights in remote ranges, nocturnal sorties over rugged terrain, and clandestine instructor roles no one ever traced back to her. As the jet's undercarriage touched the runway, a collective cheer erupted. But Alex kept her gaze forward, tapping the comlink. Let me know below if you've ever had to prove yourself when everyone was counting you out. Safe on the ground, she lifted her visor. The colonel's eyes widened as he recognized the pilot, who emerged, the same woman listed as Mia. A dozen years ago, the memorial crowd fell silent once more. End of part 1. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. The roar of the F-22's engines still echoed in Alex Chin's bones long after the wheels kissed the tarmac. As the canopy cracked open, a hush rippled across the flight line. Technicians, officers, and base medics stood frozen, eyes darting between the memorial plaque and the woman climbing down from the cockpit. It was like watching a ghost step out of a steel coffin. Alex kept her helmet on, fingers methodically unclipping straps as the cool air hit her flushed face. She let the silence stretch, a private armor against the chaos she knew was about to break. A single question pulsed in her mind. Did they think she'd forgotten how to fly, or did they hope she'd never return to remind them? She turned, boots crunching on the tarmac. The colonel broke from the gathering, flanked by two MPs who looked more confused than alarmed. His expression was somewhere between disbelief and the simmering anger of a man who hates surprises. Alex dropped her helmet at his feet. "I'm not here for a medal," she said, voice hoarse from the flight. "And I'm not here for your permission." Her eyes flicked to the MP's holsters. The safety still engaged. Good. She wasn't ready for a firefight. "Not yet, Major Chun," the colonel started, his tongue tripping over a name that had become legend. "You're dead on every record we have. 12 years missing. This is not how we do things." "No," Alex replied, wiping sweat from her brow. "This is how I do things. You want to arrest me? Do it. But while you're filling out the paperwork, who's going to fix your perimeter breach? Who's going to keep the memorial guests safe from the next drone that decides to drop from the sky?" Around them, the younger techs shifted uncomfortably, some casting glances at the compound's distant gates. Already, rumors were cracking through the ranks like lightning finding dry timber. Alex saw it in their faces, the spark of doubt, the hush of respect. They might not know every chapter of her story, but they saw the edges of something sharper than protocol. She leaned closer to the colonel, her voice low. "I'm not your problem today. I'm your solution." He opened his mouth to argue, then the base siren shrieked again. This time it was no drone. Smoke billowed near the East Supply Depot, black against the dawn sky. "Containment breach," barked one of the MPs into his cum. "Possible gas leak or sabotage. We need an evac." Alex was already moving. She snatched her helmet off the ground, jogged past the gawking bystanders, and vaulted into a standby Humvee. The engine rumbled to life under her hands, tires screeching. As she cut a path toward the flames, the depot's outer fence glowed orange as fire licked at fuel drums, stacked too close together. Alex slammed the Humvee to a halt, leaping out as heat washed over her. She pulled her med-spec mask tight, filters crackling as they adjusted to the toxic air. On the ground, a young private clutched a pressure bandage to his leg. Another recruit, maybe 19 at most, hovered uselessly nearby, eyes wide. "Droppa, if you've ever had to hold everything together when it all fell apart," Alex murmured, her mind whirring as she triaged the scene. She snapped orders to the recruit. "Keep pressure on the wound, stay low, and watch for flashover." She dashed behind a smoking crate, scanning for the source of the breach. Her father's voice echoed in her head. Always look for the second threat. That sniper's caution kept her alive for years behind enemy lines. She spotted it, a compromised gas main, leaking volatile fumes into the blaze. If it blew, half the east wing would go with it. Alex's gloved hands worked quickly, fingers dancing along rusted valves, closing what she could, rerouting pressure to secondary lines. Sparks rained from above as metal beams gave way, the hiss of flame growing into a roar. "Help me with this," she barked at the trembling recruit. Together, they hauled a fire-suppressant hose from the Humvee's side mount, its rubber biting into her palms. She anchored the nozzle, teeth gritted as back pressure jolted her shoulders. The foam hissed across burning crates, suffocating flames in thick white blankets. A final shudder rattled the gas main. Alex threw her weight against the valve wheel, her arms burning. With a grunt, it snapped closed. Silence descended, broken only by the crackle of dying embers. The private groaned in pain but gave her a thumbs up. The recruit dropped to his knees, exhausted but alive. Alex pulled off her mask, chest heaving. She could already hear the distant echo of boots, the colonel's cleanup crew. Too late to do anything but patch holes and jot down notes for the official report. She met the colonel's gaze as he arrived, flanked by more MPs and a medic team. His expression had changed, less anger now, more calculation. She knew that look. He was recalibrating the narrative, deciding how to spin this for the brass dot. She gave him no chance. You don't have to like me. You don't even have to believe I belong here. But this base is my home. And nobody torches my home. Somewhere behind her, the memorial's marble plaque still gleamed, her name etched beneath a date of presumed death. She could feel the weight of it pressing into her shoulders. But for the first time in 12 years, she felt something else. Too, the cold burn of purpose returning. The colonel stepped closer. You're going to have to answer for where you've been, Major Chun. Alex tilted her head, a smirk ghosting her lips. And you're going to have to answer for what you'd do if I left again. Before he could reply, her cum crackled. Another breach. This time, the perimeter sensors flagged a low-flying object skirting radar. The signature familiar yet impossible. Alex's heart lurched out. The same drone model she'd flown in covert ops overseas 12 years ago. She turned to the colonel. Get your men ready. This isn't over. She stalked toward the command hub, helmet tucked under her arm, boots leaving ash prints on the scorched pavement. Let me know below if you'd stand your ground when everyone else says run. The base lights flickered as a new alarm cut through. The smoke, cliffhanger. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. The harsh buzz of the new alarm cut through the compound like a blade. Alex didn't flinch. She let the sound settle under her skin like a second pulse, fueling her steps as she pushed into the command hub. The glass doors slid open before her. The stale air inside heavy with the stink of burnt circuits and adrenaline. Officers snapped to attention, eyes darting between her and the smoldering feed on the main screen. Major Chun. A young tech stammered, his headset askew. Perimeter breach confirmed. Same drone signature as the old ghost ops. We didn't even think those things still. They don't, Alex cut him off. Not unless someone's pulling them out of mothballs. Get me a visual. Static. Flickered on the overhead monitors. A ghostly shape skimmed the tree line, moving too fast for the base's ancient cameras. Alex leaned forward, studying the pixelated silhouette. It was almost laughable. 12 years gone. And the past found her anyway. Drop a, if you've ever had the past come back when you least expected it. A colonel's aide tried to shove a report under her nose. She ignored him, eyes narrowing. As the drone banked, it was scanning, testing the outer defense grid for gaps. That told her one thing. Whoever was flying it wasn't guessing. They knew this base's weak points intimately. Major Chun. What the hell is that? The colonel barked behind her, voice tight with the tension of a man losing control of his own command. Alex didn't turn around. A message. She snatched a headset from the comm desk and slid it on. Her fingers moved over the frequency dial with the muscle memory of 1,000 covert ops missions. An old override code, one she'd buried so deep she thought it might never see daylight, flashed across her mind. Chun 1 to Ghostberg, she said, her voice low. If you're up there, you've got 5 seconds to stand down before I knock you out of the sky. For a heartbeat, the comms hummed dead air. Then a voice crackled through, distorted but unmistakable. Been a long time, Alex. 12 years, yeah? Thought you'd forgotten how to fly. Her knuckles whitened on the desk. I didn't forget. You left me to die. The voice laughed. Brittle and mechanical. We all did what we had to do. But now you're home, and so my question is, who do you think they'll trust when this goes sideways? Alex ripped the headset off, jaw clenched. The colonel hovered nearby, but he didn't interrupt this time. He knew better now. Patch that feed to my console, she ordered. I want full manual control of the sky grid. And spin up the defense. Drones. An older officer spoke up, uncertainty thick in his voice. You're not authorized to, she cut him down with a stare. You want that thing flying straight into our fuel depot? Our hospital? Get me override now. The hum of drones igniting on their launch reels vibrated through the command hub's floor. On the main screen, the rogue drone dipped lower, testing the limits of the perimeter before darting back into the tree line. Alex keyed in manual commands, her fingers a blur. She was all muscle memory now. The lessons from her father's sniper patience, her mother's quick triage decisions, the years of ghost ops that no record would ever confirm. One of the junior techs swallowed hard. Ma'am, you can't shoot it down over civilian ground. Too much debris risk. Alex didn't answer. Instead, she steered the defense drones into a loose net, pushing them to corral the rogue craft back toward the open training range. She felt the drone resist, slipping through gaps like a fish in shallow water. That she knew this pilot knew the tricks, the decoy feints. Once, they'd run them side by side in an empty desert under a moonless sky. Back when they'd been partners. Back before the betrayal, the rogue drone banked hard, turning straight toward the base's memorial garden toward the crowds, still milling around the cenotaph with her name etched in stone. Alex hissed through her teeth. Not today. She flicked the master switch, cutting the safety net. The defense drones surged forward as one, pushing the rogue craft higher. She fed them new commands, her mind split between old memories and the crisp clarity of the moment. A flicker on her private feed, someone was piggybacking her signal, trying to sabotage the net. She traced the spike to an old utility shed at the compound's edge. Cover the sky, she snapped. I'm going after the ground link. She grabbed a sidearm from the rack, checking the mag with a practiced flick. The colonel's voice trailed her, barking orders she didn't hear. She was already out the door, boots pounding across the concrete. The utility shed loomed ahead, its single bulb flickering like a dying star. Alex pressed her back to the outer wall, feeling for vibrations through the thin metal. Inside, faint. Clicks a portable rig, tapping into the base's coms. She braced her breath, counted 3, and kicked the door in. The figure inside spun, a blur of dark fatigues and wild eyes. He was older than she remembered, hair shaved close, the ghost of their past operations stitched into the scars on his arms. Hello, Alex, he rasped, voice raw. You never could stay buried. She leveled her sidearm at his chest. And you never could stop digging me up. His smile was as cold as she'd feared. They'll never trust you, you know, not after this. You're still Mia, just a different battlefield. Outside, the low rumble of the defense drones swelled as they herded the rogue craft away. The man flicked his wrist, something metal glinted in the half-light. Alex lunged, slamming his hand against the rig. Sparks flew. He twisted under her grip, throwing a savage elbow that cracked against her ribs. Pain flared, but she held on. Memories bled into the fight. The desert nights, the whispered codes, the final betrayal that left her name chiseled in stone. She drove her knee into his gut, slammed his head against the table's edge, and pressed the sidearm to his temple. You're going to stand down that drone, or I will burn you out from every network you hide behind. He coughed blood, grinning through broken teeth. You always were the best of us. His thumb twitched an override code. The drone above shuddered, then spiraled down, crashing harmlessly into the empty range. In the silence that followed, Alex felt her heartbeat thunder against the barrel of her gun. Drop of, if you've ever had to fight someone you once trusted with your life. She stepped back, breath ragged. The man slumped, unconscious or worse, she didn't check. She ripped the portable rig apart, wires dangling like severed veins. Outside, the sun was rising again, painting the memorial's marble white. Her name was still there, unclaimed and unburied. But not for long. Cliffhanger. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. Alex stood at the shed's threshold, her shadow falling over the lifeless rig, and the traitor crumpled beside it. The dawn wind carried the acrid sting of burnt electronics and churned memories she'd never buried deep enough. She holstered her sidearm with deliberate care, each click of metal on polymer steadying her pulse. She had no illusions this wasn't over. Not by miles. She stepped out into the compound's chaos. Sirens still blared in short, clipped warnings. Beyond the eastern gate, a convoy of armored transports rumbled in, spitting dust across the rows of sandbags and the gaping stares of the base's youngest recruits. They clutched rifles they'd never expected to fire today. Some looked at her with awe, others with something closer to fear. She felt the weight of both. Alex paused beside a medic station, her eyes darting to the new perimeter feed flickering. On an outdoor monitor, the rogue drone lay smoking on the range, torn open like a gutted fish. But there, near its twisted tail assembly, something glinted. A silver tag, swinging gently from a length of wire, her father's unit insignia. The same one she'd watched him bury in the desert sand when she was 16. A warning or an invitation. She'd learned to treat them the same. A sergeant snapped a crisp salute as she passed. "Major Chun, the colonel requests your debrief in the command bunker." She didn't break stride. "He can wait. I need eyes on that crash site." "Ma'am," he said. Alex stopped so abruptly the sergeant nearly walked into her back. She turned, gaze leveled like a sniper's reticle. "He wants this base intact? He'll want that wreck secured before it leaks its secrets to the wrong eyes." The kid nodded, swallowed hard, and sprinted off toward the range. "Come," barked. At his hip, Alex slipped through the maze of supply crates and half-finished barricades, boots silent on the grit-strewn concrete. Her mind spun like a sighting scope dialing into focus. 12 years, Mia. 12 years of dead-come links. Cold nights in concrete cells. Betrayal after betrayal stitched into her skin like scars no one could see. She'd clawed her way back from the grave once. She would do it again. But this time, she wouldn't crawl. A voice caught up to her near the flight line, sharp, clipped, familiar. "You can't keep ghosting protocol forever, Chun." She turned to see Lieutenant Marco Reyes, his sleeves rolled up, a holster strapped loose around his thigh. Reyes had been a green recruit when she vanished. Now his eyes carried the same flint she'd seen in her own reflection at Zero Dark. 30, not ghosting, she said. Hunting. Reyes fell in beside her, steps matching hers without needing instruction. "Drone pilot ID? Dead," she said flat. "Rigged with old codes, half our perimeter's obsolete. Whoever sent it wanted me rattled, not dead." Reyes gave a low whistle. Anyone else would be planning a tactical retreat. Alex shot him a sideways glance. Anyone else didn't spend 12 years planning what they'd do when they came. Home. They reached the crash site, perimeter tape flapping in the wind. MPs and dusty BDUs stood guard while a forensic tech knelt over the drone's broken fuselage. The silver insignia swung, catching a stray ray of sunlight. Alex squatted beside the wreck, running a gloved finger along the jagged metal. Beneath the soot and wire, she traced a small, precise etching, her mother's medic cross, the symbol she'd painted on every field kit, her father's unit, her mother's legacy, both staring back at her from a machine designed to haunt her. Drop A, if you've ever had to face ghosts you thought you buried. She plucked the tag free and slipped it into her pocket. The tech flinched. "Ma'am, chain of evidence. Not your worry," Alex said. "This one's mine." Reyes gestured at the scorched earth. "Who's left that knows all your old ghosts?" Alex straightened, her silhouette slicing through the early light. "Sane people who think I'm still dead." A low rumble rolled across the range. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing as a second convoy pulled in black SUVs. Windows tinted so dark they devoured the dawn. No base insignia, no plates. Just the hum of high-clearance authority. Wonderful, Reyes muttered. Spooks. The lead SUV door popped open. A woman stepped out mid-40s, hair pulled into a knot so tight it might have been a weapon. On its own. She wore civilian clothes, but her boots were regulation issue, scuffed just enough to say she'd walked through more mud than marble hallways. Major Chun, she called, her voice carrying like a gunshot. I'm Agent Cassandra Holt. You and I have unfinished business. Alex didn't move. You must be the new handler. Holt's smile was knife-thin. I'm not your handler, Chun. I'm the reason you didn't stay dead. Reyes tensed. But Alex only raised an eyebrow. Then you know why I'm not back in a coffin yet. Holt gestured toward the base gates. Walk with me. We have a lot to discuss. Alex fell in step beside her, the crunch of gravel under their boots the only sound between them for 100 yards. Finally, Holt spoke. That insignia they left it for you, a breadcrumb. Someone's resurrecting your old op files. And they're not subtle. Someone? Alex said. Or you? Holt stopped at the fence line, fingers tapping a coded rhythm against the chain link. If I wanted you gone, you'd have vanished for real 12 years ago. No memorial, no base to come back to. Alex's hand drifted to her pocket, feeling the tag's cold edge bite her skin. So what's the play? Holt leaned in, her breath ice on Alex's ear. You find them before they find you again. Or you'll be the next name etched in marble, and this time, it'll stick. Alex didn't flinch. What do you get if I do your cleanup? Holt's smile didn't reach her eyes. I get to keep my secrets buried, same as you. They stood like that, two shadows at the edge of a fence line, the weight of too many ghosts pressing at their backs. In the distance, the sun rose higher, lighting the memorial where Alex's name still waited for her return. Drop a if you dig up every secret to protect your own. Alex turned away first. She walked back toward the base, the tag in her pocket knocking against her thigh with every step. And behind her, Holt's voice drifted across the wind. This isn't over, Major Chun. It never was. Cliffhanger. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. Alex's boots left faint imprints in the morning dew as she crossed back to the compound. Every step felt heavier than the last, like she was dragging the old battlefield behind her, the desert nights and barbed wire stitched to her spine. She flexed her gloved hand around the insignia tag in her pocket, the cold edge grounding her more than any protocol ever could dot at the command hub. The colonel waited, arms crossed tight over his chest. His eyes flicked to Reyes at her shoulder, then back to her face, trying to measure the distance between his rules and her reality. Major Chun, he began, voice clipped. Care to explain why you hijacked my security grid, stole a Humvee, and personally engaged an intruder without so much as a clearance slip? Alex didn't bother to sit. Because if I hadn't, you'd be standing in a crater where your supply depot used to be. Reyes snorted behind her, earning a glare from the colonel. But Alex held her ground, shoulders square under the weight of the base's scrutiny. Drop a if you've ever done what had to be done, permission or not. The colonel exhaled sharply, pacing behind his battered metal desk. You were listed Mia, presumed dead. You have no active rank, no chain of command. As far as HQ is concerned, you don't exist. Alex leaned forward, palms flat on the desk. And yet here I am. You can court-martial me, lock me up, or slap a medal on my coffin again. Doesn't change the fact that someone's testing your perimeter with toys I buried a decade ago. Or that they left me a calling card that says this base is next. She pulled the silver insignia from her pocket, dropping it onto a stack of forms. The metal gleamed under the flickering overhead light. The colonel's eyes narrowed. Where'd you find this? On the drone, Alex said. And it's not just decoration. Whoever's behind this has my old op files. Locations, tactics, call signs. They're baiting me, and by extension, you." The colonel picked up the tag, thumb brushing over the etched marks. For a moment, something softer flickered across his face. He set it down with deliberate care. "You think they'll come again?" Alex's laugh was dry as desert wind. "They're already here. They've been here. That drone? Just a door knock." Reyes stepped forward, dropping a data slate onto the desk. "We pulled residuals from the crash site. Micro-etch codes. Link the parts to surplus gear signed out of an old black site. That site was mothballed when she went EMEA." The colonel rubbed his temples. "You're telling me someone's resurrected a decade-old ghost program and dropped it in my backyard?" Alex didn't blink. "I'm telling you, they never buried it deep enough." The colonel's eyes darted to the wall where the memorial roster hung, a grid of names etched in brass, hers prominent in the center. The irony was almost too much to look at. "You want me to pull you back in?" he asked quietly. "No rank, no papers, just—" "What, carte blanche?" Alex's jaw tightened. "You don't pull me in. I was never out." Reyes shifted beside her, voice steady. "We can run it quiet. Keep the base chatter locked down. I'll ghost her clearance under training rotations. If anyone asks, she's evaluating new security drills." The colonel's eyes flicked between them, weighing loyalty against procedure. In the end, he nodded once small, resigned. "Fine, but you answer to me, Chun. One slip, one incident that lands on HQ's radar. You'll have a lot more than paperwork to worry about," Alex finished for him. She straightened, rolling her shoulders. The stiffness faded the moment she felt the shift, the pivot from ghost to hunter. She turned to Reyes. "I need a full sit rep on every piece of gear that left that black site. Names, serial codes. Who signed what when. Start with the people who thought I wouldn't come back for it." Reyes grinned. "Already on it." They left the colonel staring at the insignia glinting on his desk like a bad penny that kept finding its way home. They commandeered an empty tactical room. Near the hangar's bare concrete floors, scarred metal table, a bank of old terminals, humming like an insect nest. Reyes pulled up maps, digital manifests, logs scraped from dusty archives. Alex studied each piece like a sniper sighting targets in the dark. Every connection was a stitch in the same old wound. Old handlers, buried ops, cover IDs that once bought her time in places she wasn't supposed to breathe. "Look at this," Reyes murmured, tapping a flickering feed. "Freight logs show a crate from that black site, transferred to a civilian contractor. Cargo type, obsolete recon tech. And the name on the release signature?" Alex read it twice, jaw tight. "Mason Grier," Reyes squinted. "You knew." "Him," she barked a humorless laugh. "He trained me. Then he sold me out." Reyes leaned back, folding his arms. "If he's alive, he's your way in." Alex's gaze drifted to the corner of the screen where a blurred photo showed Grier at a remote airstrip, grainy under floodlights. He looked older, heavier, but the eyes, sharp and calculating, hadn't aged a day. She felt that old sniper's mantra coil in her gut. One shot, one life. And sometimes the life you take back is your own. Drop of, if you've ever wanted to confront the one who betrayed you most. She yanked a duffel from a supply rack, packing it with med-spec. Filters, extra mags, a battered field tablet she'd once smuggled out under a moonless sky. Reyes watched, a faint grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. "You know," he said, "normal people would file a report and let the brass handle it." Alex zipped the bag shut. "Normal people stay dead." They rolled out under a blanket of dusk, the Humvee's headlights cutting tunnels through the gathering dark. The old airstrip sat miles beyond the compound's perimeter, an abandoned shell once used for Black Ops drop points. Alex felt every rut in the road as if it were an old scar pressed raw again. They parked on a rise overlooking the cracked tarmac. A single hangar loomed, its corrugated roof rusted and buckling. Pale light glowed inside like a lantern for ghosts. Reyes cut the engine, eyes flicking to her. "You want backup?" Alex slid around into the chamber, the click sharp in the night. "Air, I want the truth." She left the Humvee, boots crunching gravel. Her silhouette melted into the shadows, each step measured to swallow sound. Through a broken window, she glimpsed Greer pacing beside crates marked with her old op numbers. He looked up, as if he could feel her heartbeat from across the hangar. Alex Chun, back from the dead. She stepped through the open bay door, the night wind stirring the dust at her feet. Mason Greer, still playing God with other people's graves? He laughed, low and rasping. "You're supposed to thank me. I kept your secrets better than you ever could." Alex leveled her sidearm at him, steady. "You kept them buried so you could sell the pieces." Grier's eyes glittered. "Who do you think paid for your memorial? For the silence that let you slip away?" Alex took a step closer, boots scraping the oil-stained floor. "I didn't slip away. You left me to rot." He gestured at the crates. "You want the rest of your life back? It's all in there. Files, codes, the list of every handler who signed off on your ghost ops. But you know the price." Alex felt the weight of the insignia in her pocket, the memory of her father's calm voice threading through the rage. "Never trade your soul for the ghosts you buried. Drop if you'd walk away from every secret to keep your soul." She didn't lower the gun. "You talk too much, Mason." In a blink, he lunged for the console behind him. She fired a single deafening shot that split the hangar's stillness. Greer dropped, his hand frozen inches from the kill switch that would have wiped everything. Alex exhaled, the echoes of the shot rolling through her like a storm. She knelt, fingers flipping open the crate nearest her. Files stacked like tombstones. The past, preserved in ink and data drives. She turned as Reyes slipped in through the side door, weapon raised until he saw Grier's body. He looked at her, at the crates, at the spent casing cooling on the concrete. "You good?" Alex stood, a wry smile cracking the mask she'd worn for 12 years. "I'm not dead yet." In the distance, the sun broke the horizon again, spilling light across the old airstrip, washing the blood and secrets in gold. Cliffhanger. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. Alex stood over Mason Grier's lifeless body, the smell of cordite clinging to the hangar's stale air. The crates behind her loomed like coffins, each stamped with the ghost she thought she'd buried in a different lifetime. She knelt beside the crate, fingertips brushing a yellowed file folder. 12 years of her life reduced to paper, black ink that never told the full truth. Reyes moved closer, boots echoing softly across the oil-stained floor. He nudged Grier's boot with the barrel of his sidearm, as if expecting him to twitch. "Back to life. Never figured he'd go down that easy," Reyes said, voice pitched low. Alex didn't look up. "He didn't think I'd pull the trigger. That's always been his mistake. He thinks he knows me better than I know myself." She flipped the folder open. A grainy photo slipped free her, kneeling in a desert ruin, the sniper's insignia taped to her vest. A note in the corner, asset to be liquidated if non-compliant. She laughed, a brittle sound that didn't belong in the dawn light filtering through the cracked windows. "Drop if you've ever seen proof that someone wrote you off before you were ready to go." Reyes crouched beside her, scanning. "The files. You think these are all real, or more bait?" Alex tapped the data drive embedded in the folder's back flap. Only one way to find out. They dragged the crates out to the Humvee under the cover of a pale sunrise, the horizon still bleeding the last of the night's secrets into a new day. Alex kept her eyes on the tree line, half expecting a sniper's glint to catch her eye. A final ghost with her name etched on a bullet. But the woods stayed silent. Back at the base, they slipped through the side gate. The MP on watch barely nodding as Reyes showed him a forged supply manifest. By the time the Humvee rolled into the old maintenance bay, the sun was high enough to catch the edge of the memorial stone, a harsh reminder that half the base still thought she was better off staying dead. Inside the makeshift ops room, Reyes slammed a fresh battery pack into the field tablet. He hooked up the data drive, eyes darting to Alex every few seconds. She ignored him, unrolling the folders across the steel table like a battlefield map. The files told stories no one should have survived. Extraction orders scrubbed mid-op. Supply. Routes rerouted into dead zones. Every page reeked of betrayal, dressed up in official stamps and tidy signatures. Names she remembered, faces she'd trusted, all connected by black ink and blood. She froze when she found her father's last debrief, a single-page summary of a mission that never made it to the brass. A sniper's nest overlooking a desert. Village, orders to eliminate a target that never appeared. Instead, he vanished, and the file was buried under layers of clearance codes. Reyes leaned over her shoulder. He was ghosted the same way they ghosted you. Alex's throat felt raw, except he didn't come back. She slipped the page into her vest. Some ghosts deserve to stay close. Reyes tapped the tablet's cracked screen. The drives. Got partial coordinates for an old drop zone in the eastern mountains. You think it's another trap? Alex exhaled, the sound sharp in the stale air. If it is, then we spring it on our terms. Dropeth if you'd walk into the fire. Just to drag the truth out alive. They rolled out again that night, the Humvee's engine a low growl under the canopy of stars. The mountain road was little more than a jagged scar up the ridgeline, switchbacks barely wide enough for the wheels to cling. Reyes drove, eyes flicking. To the rear view every few seconds, one hand on the wheel, the other resting on his sidearm. Alex rode shotgun, the sniper's insignia pressed flat under her glove. She could feel the weight of it, a coin on the scale of every choice she'd made to stay breathing. They reached the drop zone just before dawn. A clearing cut into the mountain's shoulder, old floodlights long dead. The landing pad cracked with weeds sprouting through the concrete. But the air smelled wrong, like burnt oil and old blood. Reyes killed the engine. They stepped out into the hush, boots crunching frostbitten grass. Alex knelt, brushing her hand over the dirt near the landing pad's edge. Scorched marks. A small depression where something heavy had been dropped or lifted. Whatever was here didn't stay long. She murmured. A branch snapped deep in the tree line. Reyes froze, hand drifting to his holster. Alex motioned for silence, drawing her knife instead. Guns spoke too loud when you didn't know who else was listening. A figure stepped into the clearing, tall, wiry, face half shrouded by a hood pulled low. He carried no weapon, but his eyes glittered like a man who didn't need one. "Major Chun," he said, voice like gravel dragged over steel. "I was beginning to think you'd forgotten this place." Alex rose, blade loose at her side. "Depends. Who am I remembering?" The man tugged back his hood. Under the flickering edge of dawn, his face emerged older, lined by sun and secrets, but unmistakable. Her father's old spotter, Callum Voss. Reyes whispered, "Didn't he eat a bullet?" 12 years ago? Alex's mouth was dry, apparently not well enough. Voss smiled, no warmth in it. "I told them you'd come back when the ghosts got loud enough. You're here for answers, right? They're all buried under your memorial. That's where. The final piece waits." Alex's blood ran cold. "The base?" Voss nodded. "The stone isn't just for show. It marks a vault. Your father's last failsafe. If you want the truth, you have to dig up your own grave. Drape, if you'd rip up your own grave to find the truth they buried with you." Reyes stepped closer, gun low but ready. "Why tell us now?" Voss tilted his head as if tasting the wind. "Because they're coming to seal it forever. And if they get there first, the next name on that stone won't be a ghost. It'll be you." A distant rumble of engines floated up the mountain. Black SUVs, same as the ones that brought Holt, but this time, they didn't look friendly. Alex turned to Riaz, eyes sharp as the blade in her grip. "We go back, we finish this. No more graves," he nodded. "No more ghosts." As they slipped back to the Humvee, the clearing behind them fell silent again. Another ghost, added to the long list of debts she would repay down at the base. The memorial waited, marble glinting under floodlights that didn't care whose name they lit up. Cliffhanger. Double quotes before we jump back in. Tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. The Humvee's tires hissed over the cracked asphalt as Alex and Reyes barreled back down the mountain road. The sky was bleeding from ink to bruised purple, the first hint of dawn brushing the ridgeline behind them. Inside the cab, the engine's low growl matched the pulse hammering in Alex's throat. Her father's old spotter alive. A hidden vault under her own memorial. And ghosts that refused to stay buried. Reyes kept glancing at her from the driver's seat, as if trying to read her mind through the reflection in the windshield. "You believe him?" Alex's gloved fingers drummed on the butt of her sidearm. "Doesn't matter. If there's even a chance my father left something behind, we dig." A convoy of headlights flared in the rearview, 3 black SUVs hugging the winding road, keeping pace but never overtaking. No insignia, no plates. Just the same anonymous threat they'd chased from the wrecked drone to the hangar, and now back to the base that still called her dead. Drop a if you've ever felt the past breathing down your neck. They hit the base perimeter at a roll. Reyes flashed an old clearance badge through the slot 1 Alex knew would trip alarms, but delay the questions just long enough. The young MP on the gate hesitated, eyes darting from the badge to her face, then back to the convoy trailing them. He waved them through. Inside the wire, the compound buzzed with forced calm. Recruits ran drills on the far field. Mechanics pretended not to stare as the Humvee screeched to a halt near the memorial garden. Alex slammed the door before the engine rattled quiet, boots hitting the frost-bitten grass in long strides. The marble cenotaph loomed ahead, its edges harsh in the weak dawn. Her name was still there, chiseled in perfect lines. Major Alexandra Chun, missing in action. Presumed Kia. Reyes jogged up beside her, breath fogging in the chill. "You really think there's a vault under this?" Alex crouched, running her gloved fingers along the base of the monument. Tiny scratches caught the light as sniper's mark, the same pattern her father used to leave messages when they were cut off behind enemy lines. She found the last groove, pressed hard. A soft click echoed under the stone. A hiss of hydraulics. The base of the cenotaph shifted a hair, then a slim seam opened, revealing a metal hatch barely wide enough for a body. Alex barked a short laugh. "Looks like he planned for me to come home one way or another." They slipped through the garden shadows as the first black SUV rolled up near the supply shed. 3 men in civilian suits spilled out, all with the same coiled posture and discreet sidearms tucked under their jackets. Holt stepped out last, her eyes cutting across the field until they locked on Alex. "Major Chun," she called, her voice too calm for the tremor in her hands. "You don't want to do this." Alex tapped her earpiece, voice a razor whisper to Reyes. "She's stalling. Get the hatch open." He knelt at the seam, working a handheld tool across the old locking grid. Sparks flared in tiny arcs, the scent of burnt metal rising in the garden air. Alex stayed standing, body angled between Holt's crew and the vault. Holt took a careful step closer. "Alex, listen to me. What's under there isn't just your father's files. It's every buried up your unit ever touched. Names, places, black sites that don't exist on any ledger. You can't control what happens when that leaks." Alex's grip tightened on her sidearm. "Then help me seal it the right way." Holt's laugh was a ghost of its usual sharpness. You think they'll let you walk once you dig it up? You're just another loose end to them. Always were. The hatch creaked open behind Alex. Reyes called out, "Got it. Droppa, if you'd open the vault anyway, just to know." Alex backed toward the hatch, gun leveled at Holt. "Tell your suits to stand down, or they'll get to test if the memorial's big enough for 4 more names." Holt's jaw clenched. Her hand twitched, but she didn't give the order. Alex dropped into the hatch feet first, boots hitting a ladder rungs chilled by decades of disuse. Reyes followed, sealing the lid behind them. Darkness swallowed them whole, until Reyes' shoulder lamp flickered to life. The passageway was narrow, walls lined with ancient conduit and old field wiring. The air smelled of metal and the stale breath of forgotten secrets. A dozen meters in, the shaft opened into a small chamber reinforced with steel plates bolted into the earth. A single locker sat in the center military green, its surface scratched and dented. Alex knelt beside it, her gloved hand hovering over the biometric pad inset near the latch. "If he set this up right, it'll need a DNA match." Reyes raised an eyebrow. "You trust the print scanner still works after 12 years underground?" Alex gave a crooked grin. "Only one way to find out." She tugged her glove off, pressing her thumb to the pad. A faint chime answered, then the lock clacked open. Inside, folders, data drives, and a battered field journal wrapped in oilskin. The smell of old ink and stale sweat drifted out, more potent than any perfume of her father's ghost. She flipped the journal open. The first page held a single line in block letters. "Trust no chain that doesn't bind you by choice." Reyes peered over her shoulder. "Paranoid old bastard." Alex turned pages, skimming code words, sketched maps, lists of supply caches and fallback points she thought had been scrubbed from every database. And then, near the back, a list of handlers. One name jumped out, circled in red: C. Holt. Alex's breath caught. She was in it from the start. Reyes gave a low whistle. "You going to show her?" Alex shook her head. "She already knows. She's just hoping I don't." Footsteps echoed above them. The hatch rattled, metal scraping against frost. A voice barked through Holt's tone, tight with urgency. "Alex, listen to me. We're out of time. They're coming. The ones who kept us buried. They'll burn this whole base if they think you'll talk." Alex tucked the journal into her vest. She yanked the drives from the locker, tossing one to Reyes. "Stash that. If I don't make it out, you leak it, all of it." Reyes hesitated. "And you?" She chambered her sidearm, eyes sharp as flint. "I didn't crawl out of a grave. Just to let them bury me again. Drop A, if you'd stand your ground, even when you're outnumbered." The hatch above cracked open, cold dawn light spilling in like the blade of a knife. Holt's silhouette appeared, backlit and bristling with her suits behind her. Alex stepped into the ladder well, boots planting on the first rung. She looked up, eyes locked on Holt's. "Tell them," she said, voice low and certain. "If they want me gone this time, they better carve my name deeper." And she climbed toward the light, the vault of ghosts closing silent behind her. Cliffhanger. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. Alex's boots scraped metal as she climbed out of the vault's narrow throat. The first breath of cold dawn stung her lungs like needles fresh air after a decade of stale secrets. Holt's silhouette waited just outside the hatch, her eyes narrowed, the faint tremor in her hands betrayed by the subtle click of her sidearm safety. Reyes emerged behind Alex, his pack stuffed with the old drives. The weight of what they'd just dug up made every sound sharper, the crunch of frost under boots, the distant hum of engines gathering at the edge of the compound. Alex straightened, slipping the battered journal deeper into her vest. She and Holt locked eyes across the marble base of the cenotaph still bearing her name. Major Alexandra Chun, missing in action, presumed Kia, The irony didn't bite as deep anymore. Now it was armor. You read it yet? Holt asked, her voice low enough the suits flanking her had to lean in to catch it. Alex shook her head. I read enough. Holt's jaw tightened. You think burning us all down is going to fix anything? Alex's laugh was soft, brittle. I'm not here to fix what's broken. I'm here to stop it from spreading. Drop A, if you've ever decided the only way forward was to light the match yourself. The convoy that trailed them from the mountains finally crawled through the gate. More black SUVs, more tinted windows that didn't reflect sunlight, just swallowed it whole. Out stepped men in charcoal suits with blank eyes and perfect posture. The kind who'd once signed off on her being listed Mia, then cashed the silence for promotions and clean records. Reyes shifted beside her, voice pitched just for her ear. There's more of them than us. Alex tilted her head. We'll even the odds. Holt stepped forward, blocking the suits with a hand that trembled only once. I can hold them off long enough to get you to the airstrip. There's an old recon bird still fueled. Alex cut her off. I'm not running. Holt flinched, just enough that the suit stiffened. The nearest one reached inside his jacket, too smooth to be casual. Alex's sidearm was out before he cleared leather. The base air crackled with the threat of violence. A frozen moment waiting for the first hammer to drop. You want to do this here? Holt hissed. At your own memorial? Alex's eyes flicked to the marble behind her, then to the sunrise catching on her father's insignia in her pocket. Seems fitting. A shot split the dawn. One of the suits buckled, his own weapon skittering across the grass. Reyes held his smoking sidearm steady, eyes cold. The rest drew down, the garden a standoff of ghosts and traitors under the gaze of the name that refused to stay dead. The first suit lunged. Alex pivoted, her elbow cracking across his jaw. Reyes swept another's legs out from under him, boots finding ribs with brutal precision. Holt's voice barked sharp commands, but her men faltered, caught between the old chain of command and the truth they saw written in Alex's eyes. Drop A, if you've ever fought for a name they tried to erase. In the chaos, Alex caught. Holt's eyes saw the flicker of something older than fear. Regret. A debt unpaid. You can still walk. Alex spat, knuckles raw as she leveled her sidearm at the last suit standing. But when I'm gone, your leash snaps too. You ready for that? Holt's lips parted, the truth snagged on years of practiced lies. They'll hunt you, Alex shrugged. Let them try. The garden fell silent, the last suit crumpled. At Rhea's boots. Holt stepped back, her eyes locked on the marble that still declared Alex dead. She turned away first, barking for her remaining men to stand down. Reyes knelt, pulling a satellite phone from the nearest suit's pocket. He tossed it to Alex. Whatever we do next, we do it loud. She cracked a grin, adrenaline bleeding out just enough to feel the ache in her ribs. Damn right we do. They made their way back to the old hangar, the only place she trusted not to have ears hidden in the walls. Reyes rigged the drives into a battered laptop, the screen flickering under the hum of a single overhead lamp. Each file was a map of betrayal, names she'd never met but whose signatures haunted her ops. Funds funneled into black sites, ops that ended with entire units ghosted like her father. Her mother's medic cross turned into a code word for field tests no medic ever signed off on. Reyes leaned back, scrubbing a hand over his jaw. You sure about this? Once it's out, there's no going back. Alex's fingers hovered over the send command. There's never been a back to go to. She tapped the key. The files shot through satellite relays, their dirty truths scattering across every back channel, every node that had once kept them buried. Within minutes, the garden she just fought for would be the first place the world looked when they asked why a ghost stood up and spoke. Drop A, if you've ever decided. The truth was worth every consequence. Reyes watched the upload bar crawl across the screen. They'll come hard, Alex. Even the colonel won't be able to bury this under new drills. Alex leaned back, pulling her father's insignia free. She turned it in the weak light, watching. The edges catch on the ridged scars of her knuckles. They've already come. "I'm still here," a faint buzz Holt's voice on the secure line. She patched through, the old handler's tone tight, clipped, fighting the current dragging her under. "You think this ends with you? They'll spin this so fast your head will hit the stone before your boots leave the tarmac." Alex's smile was a blade. "Then tell them to carve the name deeper. I'll keep walking over it." She killed the line before Holt could answer. Reyes tossed her a battered headset. "So what now?" Alex stood, tucking the insignia into her vest like a shield. "Now we see who wants to keep burying me and who's ready to dig their own hole first." Outside, the compound lights flared. Sirens wailed another breach. Or maybe just the base, realizing the ghost in their garden had turned the lights on. Alex holstered her sidearm, voice calm as old desert wind. "Let's go remind them why they never found my body." And under the hush of the last siren, her name on the marble stayed exactly where it was. A promise, not a grave cliffhanger. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. Alex stood at the edge of the old hangar, watching the compound flicker with emergency lights, like a field of fireflies about to burn out. Somewhere in that glow, the files she'd unleashed were already gnawing holes through decades of buried operations. And her name, once etched in marble, was now burned into every back channel that used to whisper her dead. Reyes leaned against the Humvee, shotgun cradled loose across his chest. The echo of sirens mingled with the steady thrum of rotors overhead. Extraction team or another cleanup crew. This time, they wouldn't come for scraps. They'd come for the whole body. "You think the colonel will cover for you again?" Reyes asked, voice pitched low under the blade of the night wind. Alex's fingers brushed the edge of her father's insignia in her pocket, its ridged metal now warm from her touch. "He'll try, but the chain's broken. They'll bend him until he snaps." She glanced at the rusting Humvee. It looked like every convoy she'd ever escaped, every drop point she'd ever memorized. The ghosts never stayed in one place. Neither did she. Drop us if you've ever known you'd have to run before you could stand. A crackle on. Reyes come. He pulled the headset tight. Perimeter sensors show inbound. Black Hawks, 3 minutes out. Alex cracked a faint grin. They always did love an entrance. She stepped inside the hangar, flicking the overhead lamps one by one. The crates they'd dragged from Grier's stash were still stacked against the far wall, now stripped of anything that could be used to spin her back into a corner. Only the insignia, the old journal, and the drive stayed in her vest. Her entire life, reduced to a handful of weight that made her feel lighter instead of buried. Reyes crossed to her side. "You want the roof or the dirt?" Alex considered it, eyes scanning the skeleton of the hangar cracked steel beams, rusted catwalks, and the ghost of a runway stretching into the black. "Neither. They expect us up high or dug in." We go through the runway. Drainage tunnels feed out under the north fence. Reyes barked a laugh. "A rabbit hole? Old school." Alex's mouth twitched. Old school's what kept me breathing when they thought I was dead. They loaded up what they could gear, leftover field rations, a single battered drone she'd kept from her first ghost op. It whirred to life on her shoulder, a tiny blinking eye that made Reyes raise an eyebrow. "You think that toy's gonna help?" Alex flicked the drone's casing with her nail. "It's not the drone, it's the signal it carries. Let them chase a shadow while we find the next door." They slipped out through a side grate, boots crunching along the cracked tarmac. As the first Black Hawks crested the tree line, the searchlights swung in slow, patient arcs, carving the compound into patches of blinding white and deep shadow. Halfway to the old drainage tunnel, Alex paused. She turned back toward the memorial garden, just visible under the harsh glare of the landing lights. Reyes tugged her sleeve. Don't get sentimental now. Graves don't hold you anymore. She didn't move. Her fingers found the insignia one last time, pressing it against the inside of her vest. Then she whispered, almost too low for the night to carry, "Drop A if you've ever said goodbye to your own ghost." They slipped into the tunnel, the cold walls slick with condensation and the stale promise of freedom. Above them, the rotor blades chopped the dawn into ribbons, each thrum a heartbeat, echoing the fact that for the first time in 12 years, Alex Chun was alive in every sense of the word. They emerged a mile past the north fence, clothes muddy, skin raw from scraping through rebar and rusted pipe. Reyes doubled over, gasping laughter between lungfuls of crisp air. "You still call this a plan?" Alex scanned the horizon. In the distance, the compound's floodlights painted the landscape like the last embers of a dying fire. "No, this is step one. The plan's the next door." Reyes lifted an eyebrow. "And if there isn't one?" Alex's eyes flicked too. The faint outline of a transport truck parked under a half-collapsed windbreak. "Then we make one." They hijacked the truck before dawn fully broke, rolling across frostbitten plains with nothing but a half-tanked fuel gauge and the buzz of open coms carrying snippets of panicked chatter. The files were out, the base was burning, and somewhere in the dark, new ghosts were already gathering to stitch her name to every headline they could spin. Reyes tapped the cracked dash with the butt of his pistol. "You ever think you'd be here again, running toward a fight you could have left buried?" Alex turned her father's insignia over in her palm, its edges leaving shallow divots in her skin. "If I didn't run toward it, it would have found me anyway." They drove for hours, the map on her battered tablet flashing red markers that used to be safe houses now burned, flagged or repurposed by the same handlers who once signed her off as expendable. The only safe place left was the truth she'd already leaked, and the people willing to hold the line when the storm came to bury it again. "Drop a if you'd stand guard over the truth, no matter who came knocking." By nightfall, they reached a dead radio tower on the edge of an abandoned comms relay. The place smelled of mildew and old cigarettes, a relic from another generation's secrets. Reyes keyed open the rusted door while Alex scanned the perimeter. They settled in the dusty control room, the static hum of dead air almost comforting. Alex spread out the last of the drives, booting up a battered cum rig scavenged from a crate at Greer's. She patched it to the stolen drone, now perched like a watchful crow on the WINDOWSILL. Reyes cracked open a ration bar, tossing her half. "So what happens when the world knows your name doesn't belong on that marble?" Alex tore the wrapper, chewed, eyes on the blinking green light of the transmission node. "They'll forget tomorrow. They always do. But enough people will remember long enough to keep me alive. Long enough to keep them busy." Reyes raised his bar in a mock toast. "To staying alive, then." Alex clinked hers against his. "To staying free." Hours bled into dawn. The first headlines crawled across Reyes' flickering tablet. Classified Black Opus. Files leaked by presumed dead pilot, Mia Major Chun. A live base memorial under investigation. Insiders confirm covert programs. Resurrected. Every line was a bullet she'd spent years dodging. Now it was hers to fire back. She patched in a final message, her voice rough but clear as it cut across the buried networks. "This is Major Alexandra Chun. I was buried once, but I'm not dead yet. You want my ghost? Find me." She killed the feed, the static a lullaby. Then she leaned back against the old comms console, the insignia in her palm like a promise not to slip under again. "Drop a if you've ever promised yourself you'd never disappear." Outside, the sunrise burned the horizon raw. A new day with no chain to bind her, only the open road and a truth too bright for any marble to hide. Cliffhanger. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. The sun clawed its way over the skeletal horizon as Alex Chun stood on the roof of the old Cums relay, the cold metal grating biting into her boots. Below her, Reyes snored softly on a pile of dusty tarps, his sidearm resting within easy reach. Even in sleep. Beyond the broken fence line, the plain stretched like an open wound, no trees, no cover. Just the endless hush of wind carrying the truth she'd set loose. Alex balanced her weight against a rusted antenna mast. The stolen drone. Perched beside her like a half-tamed hawk. Its single red eye blinked in the dawn haze, feeding back scraps of chatter she'd once risked her life to bury. Every ping on her battered headset made the world feel smaller, more dangerous and more alive than she'd felt in 12 years. She thumbed the edge of her father's insignia, its grooves pressed so deep into her palm they felt like a new fingerprint. Below, Reyes stirred, cracking an eye to squint at her silhouette. "You're gonna rust to the roof if you stand up there much longer," he called, voice muffled by the wind. Alex didn't answer at first. She was tracking a low signal something. Old school, unencrypted. A leftover relic bouncing across a network that shouldn't have been awake. A handler's signature. Her handlers. Drop us if you've ever felt the past whisper your name when you least wanted to hear it. Reyes climbed up beside her, breath clouding in the cold. "What is it?" Alex tilted the drone's camera, sharpening the ping. "A meet. Looks like Holt's setting it up. She's burning her own network to stay ahead of whoever's coming." Next, Reyes barked a tired laugh. Didn't think she'd still be playing both sides. "She never played any side but her own," Alex said, the words a ghost on her tongue. They loaded the last of their gear into the truck they'd hijacked 2 nights before, its paint chipped to the primer and its bed sagging under crates of scavenged field rations. The Cums relay vanished behind them in the dust. Ahead, the meet location flickered on Alex's cracked tablet, a derelict fuel depot, the kind you only find on maps after the world wants you gone. As they rolled south, Reyes drummed his fingers on the dash. "You trust her?" Alex flexed her bruised knuckles, the insignia pressed tight in her fist. "No, but I trust she wants to live." They reached the depot by nightfall. The place smelled like rust and stale diesel. Long shadows pooled between. Skeletal fuel rigs, their iron bones creaking in the wind like old men whispering confessions. Holt waited near a pump island, coat collar flipped high, hair tucked under a battered cap that did nothing to hide the sharp edge of her eyes. "Major Chun," she called as Alex stepped out, sidearm holstered but hand ready. "I didn't think you'd show." Alex shrugged. "You lit the signal. You knew I'd answer." Reyes stayed at her shoulder, the shotgun slung but not idle. Holt's eyes flicked to him, then back to Alex. "You've made this bigger than either of us." Holt sighed, voice taut. "That dump you did? Half the handlers they thought were safe are either on the run or zipped into black bags." Alex's smile was small, humorless. "Good. Maybe the next ones will think twice." Holt stepped closer, her hand hovering near. Her coat pocket a move that made Reyes tighten his grip. But she didn't reach for a gun. Instead, she pulled a battered drive, its casing scuffed and a single red stripe painted across it. "What's that?" Reyes asked. Holt's gaze never left Alex's. The final piece. "The kill switch. Every name, every account, every site that didn't make it into your dump. You want to finish this? You'll need it." Alex arched a brow. "And what do you get?" Holt's laugh cracked like glass. "A chance to disappear before the next cleanup crew digs up my grave, too. Droppa, if you'd finish what you started, even if it meant walking away from the world you knew." Alex took the drive, feeling its weight settle in her palm like a verdict. The insignia in her pocket pressed back, cold reassurance that Ghost didn't get to rest easy. Reyes eyed Holt. "Why not just sell it to the same suits you've been protecting?" Holt's smile faded. "Because this time they want me buried beside her." She nodded at Alex. "They think ghosts don't talk. They forgot what happens when they do." A distant rumble, a convoy. Headlights flickered along the old service road. Holt's eyes went wide. That's my ride. And yours if you're smart. Alex pocketed the drive. We're not smart, we're alive. The three of them ducked behind a rusted tanker as SUVs rolled in. New faces, old uniforms, faceless men with two clean boots and expressions that didn't flinch when they raised weapons. Reyes hissed under his breath. How many you count? Alex sighted along the tanker's dented flank. Too many for a stand. Enough for a message. She glanced at Holt. You coming? Holt's jaw flexed. Run. If they catch you, they won't just kill you. They'll rewrite you. Alex drew her sidearm, the click loud as a promise. They've been trying for 12 years. She tossed the drone into the air. It buzzed high, its red eye blinking a tiny threat above the floodlights. The convoy opened up, a spray of muzzle flashes that shredded the old fuel depot's silence. Alex and Reyes returned fire, each shot placed like she was still behind a sniper scope in some desert she never really left. Somewhere behind them, Holt vanished into the shadows. Her debt paid, her ghost added to the ledger. Drop if you'd fight your way out of the grave they built for you. When the last round clicked empty, Alex and Reyes scrambled to the battered truck, engines roaring as they crashed through a chain-link fence and out onto the open plain. Bullets sparked across the tailgate, but the distance grew mile by mile, heartbeat by heartbeat, until the depot was nothing but an orange glow on the horizon. Reyes coughed out a laugh, blood spattered on his sleeve. I hate your plans. Alex checked her clip, hand steady despite the roar in her ears. We're still breathing. Dawn found them camped under the skeletal remains of an old Cums tower. Reyes dozed, head against the dash. Alex sat in the dirt, the final drive warm against her ribs, her father's insignia pressed flat in her. Palmed out the kill switch, the last cut. The one thing that could finish what she started, or bury her again, for real this time. She cracked a grin at the creeping sunrise. Drop if you'd press the last button no matter what it cost. And with the wind hissing across the dry plains, Major Alexandra Chun closed her eyes. The ghost they buried refusing to die quiet. Cliffhanger. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. The chill seeped into Alex Chun's bones long before the sky turned its bruised purple, just before dawn cracked the horizon wide open. She sat with her back against the truck's front tire, the kill switch drive turning slowly between her fingers. Its casing was warm now, thrumming with the heartbeat of 1,000 secrets waiting to be cut loose. Somewhere close, Reyes slept with one hand resting on his sidearm, the other tucked beneath his head as a makeshift pillow. The abandoned Cums tower loomed behind them, skeletal iron silhouetted against the coming light. It was the last place on the map no handler would think to check first, a ruin too obvious, too exposed. Alex liked it that way. Sometimes the only safe place was the one you could see all the threats from. She tapped her earpiece, picking up stray threads of radio. Static. The base's old emergency channel hummed faintly fragments of commands, the nervous click of a young officer who didn't yet know the old ghost they'd tried to bury was the reason the alarm still screamed. Drop if you've ever listened for a voice that shouldn't still be there. Reyes stirred awake, eyes puffy with sleep but sharp the instant they landed on the drive in her hand. You pressed that yet? Alex shook her head. Timing matters. He scooted closer, the dawn breeze cutting through the cracked windshield. Holt's gone, no word on her since she bailed at the depot. Alex's jaw flexed. She wanted to hate Holt for everything, the lies, the half-truths, the years Holt spent cashing in her silence. But she couldn't. Some debts only got paid. In shadows, they'll want her worse than me now, she said. She's the only handler with enough rope to hang the rest. Reyes cracked open an energy bar, tearing it in half. And us? You think the brass is gonna just roll over when they see their dirty laundry flapping on every feed? Alex tucked the drive into her vest, right beside her father's insignia. They won't roll over, they'll double down. First they'll come for you, then they'll come for me, he snorted. Good, they'll have to find me first. They pulled out before the sun had fully climbed the rusted skeleton of the tower. The truck coughing puffs of black exhaust as they pushed east back roads, dirt tracks, any path that didn't echo on the old satellite grids. Alex caught glimpses of herself in the cracked side mirror, the same eyes that once peered through a sniper scope, the same faint scar across her temple, but the lines around her mouth were new. Not old, earned. A battered tablet lay on the dash, its screen flickering headlines that bled into each other. Ghost pilot. Base cover-up. Mia no more. Each phrase was a promise to the world that she would not crawl back underground. Drapa, if you've ever sworn never to vanish again. By dusk they found the safe house, a collapsed motel off a forgotten highway, its roof half-caved, the paint peeling in long sad strips. But the basement held what they needed. An old hardline, an outdated server Bank Holt once used to scrub. Her paper trails. Alex and Reyes stood in the flickering light of a single bulb. The kill switch drive poised above the main console. Reyes crossed his arms. Once you plug that in, there's no going back. Alex didn't answer. She pressed the insignia into her palm, let its cold bite remind her that every secret buried once had a grave big enough for her too. She slotted the drive. A low hum filled. The basement fans spinning, relays clicking over. The screens lit up with strings of encrypted files, names blinking red like open wounds. Handlers, ops, ghost sites, payoffs. The final nail. She felt Reyes step behind her. You ever think about just walking away, letting this all stay buried? Alex laughed quiet, sharp. I did, 12 years ago. Look where that got me. Her fingers danced over the keys, triggering the upload. Lines of code bled into the wider net, a digital pulse that no blackout could smother this time. She felt the compound halfway across. The country shudder as every secret they'd hidden behind her marble name hit the light. Drapa, if you'd tear it all open, even if it meant there was nothing left to hide behind. The feed went dead, just a heartbeat of silence that felt heavier than any gunfire she'd survived. Then the old server hissed and shut down, spent. She leaned back, exhaling the truth like smoke from a fire she'd waited too long to light. Reyes punched her shoulder, a grin splitting through the exhaustion. So what now, Ghost Pilot? Alex pocketed the insignia, its edges warm from her skin. Now they chase a shadow they can't pin down. They left the safe house before the sun, climbed the motel's splintered sign. Their truck rattled down an old cattle trail, the world opening up around them like a promise she wasn't ready to trust yet. Alex found herself watching the rear view more than the road, half hoping, half daring the next ghost to come. She smiled when she saw only dust, drop of if you've ever felt freedom taste like a dare. Ahead, the horizon stretched wide and empty. No more graves. No more marble. Just the road, the truth she'd bought back with 12 years of shadows, and the steady, iron vow that no one would ever bury her again. Cliffhanger. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. The wind howled through broken fence posts as Alex Chun leaned against the old truck's rusted hood, eyes narrowed at the smear of twilight settling across the plains. Somewhere behind her, Reyes rummaged through their meager stash-do rifles. Half a box of REs, a cracked radio that crackled every few minutes with snippets of a world just beginning to taste the truth she'd forced into daylight. On the dash, her father's insignia caught the dying light. Its edges were worn smooth from years of pressing it into her palm every time. She'd wanted to believe she was more than just a ghost in someone else's war. Drapa, if you've ever clung to something that reminded you who you are. Reyes slid up beside her, dropping a battered thermos into her hand. Coffee, more or less. Found it stashed behind the seat. Could be 10 years old. Alex took a sip anyway, the bitter sludge grounding her more than any headline ever could. 10 years old tastes like freedom, Reyes snorted. If you say so, Major. They both glanced toward the ridgeline, where the sky pulsed with distant searchlights, black SUVs combing dirt roads like dogs sniffing out a buried bone. They wouldn't find her. Not yet. Alex checked the radio again, twisting the dial through static until Holt's voice cracked through clipped. Brittle, every syllable strained through fear and loyalty she'd never admit out loud. They know. The dump hit hard. Some of the old handlers flipped, but it's chaos. You've got a window, Alex, use it. Alex pressed the headset tighter. Where are you? A dry laugh. Gone, like you should have stayed. But you couldn't, could you? She wanted to ask more. The line went dead before the words found her. Drop a, if you've ever left someone behind, because staying would have killed you both. Reyes didn't ask what the handler said. He never did. He just watched her slip the insignia back into her vest. That small gesture more sacred than any prayer. They drove through the night, the truck wheezing over washboard back roads, its headlights cutting tunnels through sagebrush and dust. In the distance, the base she'd once called home flickered on the news feeds, memorial compound under siege, whistleblower pilot, confirmed alive. Each crawl line bled with the same promise. The dead do not stay buried when the truth refuses to rot. By dawn, they'd reached an abandoned way station, a rickety barn perched on a dry patch of nowhere, its rafters stripped bare by time and wind. Reyes parked the truck under what was left of the lean-to, then killed the engine. Alex stepped inside, boots crunching over mouse droppings and straw. In the corner, half buried under a tarp, she found what she'd hoped, an old off-grid repeater. Holt had once hidden for dead drops. She pried it open with a rusted crowbar, the casing splitting with a hiss of stale dust. Inside, an envelope yellowed, taped shut. Her father's handwriting on the flap, for when the chain snaps. She slid a blade along the tape, peeling it back like old skin. A single map fell out, traced with sniper's marks and coded notations only she would know how to read. The final fallback, her father's last contingency for a daughter. They both knew would outlive the ghosts chasing her. Reyes leaned against the beam behind her. That it? The next door? Alex studied the map, memorizing each mark until the paper might as well have been burned into her bones. Yeah, it's enough. Drop a, if you've ever found a path out when everyone said you'd run out of road. They loaded up by dusk, the sky above them an ocean of bruised clouds, waiting to split open. As they rolled back onto the dirt track, Alex glanced at the rearview, half expecting Holt's silhouette to appear in the wash of dust behind them. That same faint smirk tucked beneath a voice that never stayed soft for long. But there was. Only wind. Reyes nudged her elbow. If we make it to the fallback, what then? Disappear? Start over? Alex cracked a grin that felt like an old scar stretching wide. No more graves. No more marble. Just a road that doesn't end. Reyes tapped the dash with a finger. Good, because I'm getting real tired of burying you. She barked a laugh that rattled the old cab, the sound carried off by the endless hush of open country. No fences, no chain of command waiting to snap her neck if she stepped out of line. Just the horizon, as raw and honest as the truth they'd bought back with blood and fire. Drop a, if you've ever promised yourself you'd stay free, even when the world wants you gone. The final fallback lay somewhere beyond that bruised line of sky, a place her father marked when he knew she'd never stop running. A place where the ghost of Major Alexandra Chun could finally stand still long enough to breathe. Tomorrow they'd find it, or build it themselves. No more secrets. No more handlers. No more chain that didn't bind her by choice. And if the world came hunting, let them dig her grave again. This time, they'd have to bury the truth with her, and she'd make damn sure it never stayed dead. Cliffhanger. Double quotes. This story took us a long time. If you like it, subscribe. Now back to the story. The morning wind whistled through the rickety barn walls like a whisper from every ghost Alex Chun had ever outrun. She sat cross-legged on the dusty planks, map spread before her, the faint red sniper's marks glowing in the weak dawn light. Reyes dozed nearby, back propped against a splintered beam, his shotgun resting across his chest like a promise they both intended to keep. She traced a single mark on the paper, her father's final fallback. The coordinates bled into a stretch of nowhere so far off grid it might as well have been a myth. But that was the point. The place she could stand her ground, no handler, no memorial stone waiting to swallow her name again. She thumbed the insignia in her pocket, its edges dulled from years of pressing it into her skin when she needed to. Remember, she was more than the ghost they'd built her to be. Drop it if you've ever promised yourself you'd never let them write your ending for you. Reyes stirred, blinking sleep from his eyes. You ready? Alex folded the map, tucking it into her vest beside the final kill switch drive. Ready as I'll ever be. They loaded the truck before the sun topped the ridgeline, their boots crunching frost and dead leaves as they threw the last of their battered gear in the back. Reyes fired up the engine. She winced at the metallic grind, but the truck coughed to life anyway, loyal in the way machines sometimes were when people failed you. They drove for hours through winding canyons and broken roads that felt like old scars across the land. As the miles peeled away, Alex let her mind drift, not back to the hangars or the memorial garden, but to the people she'd carried with. Her father's steady hand guiding her first shot, her mother's calm voice during a field dressing in a cave lit only by a single match, Holt's clipped orders that made her wonder if ghosts could feel guilt. And now Reyes' proof that someone could stand beside her without needing to leash her down. Drop a if you've ever found the one person who'd help you stand when the world knocked you flat. They found the fallback by dusk, a hidden hollow carved into a granite bluff, half swallowed by pine and time. It wasn't much an old supply cache buried beneath a camouflaged tarp, a makeshift bunker reinforced with salvaged steel. But it was enough. Alex knelt in the dirt, pulling the final drive from her vest. She hooked it into the battered field laptop Holt had given her years ago. Its cracked screen flickered to life, lines of code streaming like a last heartbeat before the cut. Reyes squatted beside her. One last upload? Alex nodded. One last push. After this, there's nothing left they can hide behind. She tapped the keys, fingers steady as a sniper's breath. The final data packet burst out like a flare. Names, accounts, buried black sites. Every handler who'd ever signed her death certificate. Every operation that used her as collateral. Reyes read the stream over her shoulder, whistling low. They'll send everything they've got. Drones, trackers, maybe a whole brigade if they're desperate enough. Alex leaned back, cracking her knuckles. Good, let them come. I'm done hiding. She watched the progress bar crawl across the screen. 25%, 47%, 81%. Outside, the wind picked up. Somewhere in the distance, the faint thrum of rotors echoed off the canyon walls. She knew that sound. Black Hawks, she almost smiled. Drop a if you've ever stood your ground because you'd rather fight than fade. The laptop chimed upload complete. She yanked the drive, snapped it in half, and buried the shards under a loose slab of granite. No more backups. No more fail-safes. Just the raw truth, screaming into the world. Reyes checked the rifle's chamber, his voice calm as he handed it over. Last stand, Major? Alex took the rifle, the weight a perfect fit in her arms. Last stand, no more graves. They positioned themselves at the bunker's mouth, eyes on the tree line where shadows flitted between pine trunks. The first drone buzzed past, its camera sweeping in tight arcs. Alex raised her sights, tracking its red eye. One shot clean. The drone spun into the dirt, its rotor a dying cicada. More shadows moved, boots on stone. voices clipped through secure coms. But she didn't hear orders anymore. She heard her father's voice: trust no chain that doesn't bind you by choice. Drape, if you've ever learned freedom is worth every bullet they throw your way. Reyes called out target ranges, each word steady as thunder. Alex's shots split the dusk, the recoil settling deep in her bones like a heartbeat. She didn't flinch when return fire cracked the granite above her. She didn't flinch when a handler's voice barked her name through a bullhorn offering lies wrapped as clemency. She just smiled, chambered the next round, and whispered, "Carve it deeper if you want. I'm still breathing." Minutes bled into hours. The canyon swallowed the muzzle flashes until the only sound was the wind singing through the pines. Reyes reloaded beside her, blood oozing from a graze on his arm. She ripped a strip from her sleeve, bound it tight. They'd get no medics here, just each other, the truth, and the hollow that refused to become another grave. When the last shot faded, when the last drone crashed into the needles in rock, Alex lowered her rifle. The insignia pressed against her ribs, its warmth a reminder she'd been dead once. She didn't need to be again. Reyes exhaled a shaky laugh. "They'll come back, you know that, right?" Alex leaned her head against the stone wall behind her, breath calm despite the ache in her shoulders. "Let them. I've got nowhere else to be." Above them, dawn broke again, blood and gold streaking the treetops, catching the edges of the broken insignia like a promise. Drop if you've ever believed that living free is worth every fight you'll never see coming. She closed her eyes for a moment, not to disappear, but to feel the truth settle. The ghost they buried 12 years ago had landed an F-22 at her own memorial. And now, standing guard over a truth too bright to snuff out, she was alive in a way no marble could ever bind. She opened her eyes to Reyes' crooked grin, the morning wind carrying their laughter into the canyon's hush. 2 more great stories are next. Don't miss them. Subscribe and turn on notifications.